Well, that's the idea here. Kill two birds with one stone. Our discussion about killing birds. So, all right. When we, is it just me or does that look kind of dark? Oh well. When we talk about DNA, when we hear those three letters put together, DNA, everybody in here has at least heard of this, whether it's been in a movie or something you've read or another class. Okay, but DNA is familiar to hopefully everybody in here. So when we say DNA, what kinds of things pop into our minds? Yeah.
Making your remarks on DNA.
Great, a song.
Oh.
Yes.
Genetic material.
Genetic material, exactly. What else?
Deoxyribonucleic acid.
Yeah, the name of it, right? What it's actually called. Deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, one more?
Mom and Dad.
Yeah, your parents, right? Because that's where you get this stuff called DNA. You inherit your DNA from your parents. You get their traits, right? And again, that kind of leads into, that's what DNA is all about. That's the job of DNA, is to give you all of your traits, whether they're physical traits, whether they are emotional traits, sicknesses you might have to deal with. Those can be coded in your DNA. And so our job today is to one, define what DNA is, which we pretty much just did. Two, it's to look at what is DNA made out of. And then three, how does DNA actually give you the traits? So we all understand, we all understand, 46 chromosomes. We all understand that, yes, we get our traits from the DNA. But how, what part of DNA actually does that? Why are we different from each other? Why are, different animals different from different species, but they still all have DNA? Like, how can that be? So we'll look at that today. So the shape of DNA. So that's kind of an important thing. These two dudes by the name of Watson and Crick are the ones that actually explored and kind of found this shape and named it what it is. So we call this the double helix, okay? Double because it's two-stranded. So you have one strand right there, that purple and gold strand there, and you have the second purple and gold strand there. So it's double-stranded. It's a double-stranded molecule. Helix, the word helix just is a fancy word for spiral. Something's helical. It's like a spiral shape. Okay, we also say it's like a twisted ladder. So if you had a ladder that was made out of rubber and you could actually twist the ladder, ta-da, you'd get something like this. Okay, and I would probably star that like knowing the name of the shape is going to be important to you later down the road. Double helix. Okay. This part should be a little bit familiar because we've talked about DNA a little bit before as far as when we talk about biomolecules. Remember we talked about proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, and nucleic acids. DNA is one of those nucleic acids. So looking at what DNA is made of, if you recall, we said the building block of DNA is something called a nucleotide. So nucleotides are the individual Legos, if you will, of DNA. You put a bunch of them together, ta-da, you get the whole DNA molecule. If you look up at the board, this is just a rough little sketch of a nucleotide. So all three of these parts, as you'll see on the screen now, are the nucleotide. You put them all three together, that's one nucleotide. You got a phosphate and a sugar, and then one of those nitrogen bases. Now the nitrogen bases, there's four possibilities. Adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. Now, when you're looking at your traits, when you're looking at why you're you and why I'm me and why the tree is a tree and the grass is grass, it's these little darlings, the nitrogen bases, that make it that way. My phosphates and sugars are exactly like Kat's phosphates and sugars. For our DNA, it's identical. Phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, all along the side. The reason Cat is Cat and I'm Strouch are the nitrogen bases. Mine are in a certain order, hers are in a totally different order. And Aiden's are in a totally different order, and Brendan's are in a totally, and the trees are in a totally different order. But guess what? The trees have the same exact stuff as we do. Now, another part that makes it a tree and us humans is the amount of the DNA that's there. Okay? We have a certain amount of these bases. I'm making up a number here, totally making up. 5 million. The tree might only have 2 million.
Whoa.
Okay? So, but they're the same adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. And that's the incredible thing about life, right? We all are tied together in it by this stuff called DNA. Yeah.
What happens if you're missing one of those?
That's where we get into genetic mutations. So we'll kind of talk about that down the road. But yeah, you could be missing a base, or you might have the wrong base in an area, and that could cause issues, whether it's disease or a physical mutation, things like that. Yes?
Where is like the DNA located? It's like in your like heart or something?
Your DNA is in every single cell in your body inside the nucleus. So every single cell that you have has a full copy of your DNA. Your skin cells have your DNA, your hair cells, your heart cells. What makes each cell different from each other, though, is the part of the DNA that's turned on. So again, back to the 5 million. Let's say our DNA is 5 million bases long. Okay? Well, maybe spot 200,000 through 250,000 is turned on to make a skin cell. And then spot 2,050,000 to 2,500,000 is on to make a brain cell. And all these different spots of your DNA are turned on, per se, to make that cell do its particular job.
Does it have to be located in that specific place?
Now, again, I'm making all these things up, but yeah, the skin cell would be one block of these bases to make it a skin cell. Okay? It's kind of like your house is wired for electricity, right? And all those wires are tied together on the outside panel. Okay? But you can flip switches on and turn only parts of your house on and activate those wires. It's the same kind of concept with your DNA. Okay? So again, we've kind of touched the sugar and phosphate make up the sides. So again, if we're using our model, the purple and gold would represent the sugar and phosphate. That's all the sides. The middle parts are the nitrogen bases. So again, if we talk about it like a ladder, the rungs of the ladder are the nitrogen bases. The sides of the ladder would be the phosphate and sugars. Okay? Purines and pyrimidines. This is that pre-AP kind of expansion. Not really going to see it on a test, but it's important to understand. When we talk about the nitrogen bases, there's two categories. Purines are the adenines and guanines. Pyrimidines are the thymines and cytosines. And the reason that they're different is the number of carbons they have that kind of build their little nitrogen ring. 2 carbons for purines, only 1 for pyrimidines. That wasn't even on your written notes. It's just kind of some extra stuff I threw in there, okay? Chargaff's rules. This is another thing that's not on your notes per se, but I wanted to add it in here, a little bit of history. So this scientist by the name of Chargaff, he's the one that came up with what we call our base pairing rules. He's the one that figured out, okay, A's and T's always link together. G's and C's always link together. So, if an organism has 7 million A's in their DNA, they're going to have 7 million T's in their DNA. If an organism has 50,000 C's, they're going to have 50,000 G's. A's and T's always match up. C's and G's always match up. And Chargaff, Dr. Chargaff, is the one that found that. So we call the base pairing rules Chargaff's rules. So here's a little bit more about base pairing. So these bases, again, are complementary. A's and T's are complementary to each other. C's and G's are complementary to each other. An easy way to remember it with my beautiful artwork here. Apple in the tree. A to T. Car in the garage. Yes, that's a car, not a coffin on wheels. I guess coffin in the garage would work too, but it is Halloween. So C to G, car in the garage. A to T, apple in the tree. Okay? That will be up there for a while, but you're welcome to what?
A coffin in the grave.
Go! Coffin in the graveyard. I like it. Yeah.
I like the word.
It is spooky time. Right. So, alright, we're almost done. Let's keep going. So, here's just a sample. So look. Oh, please don't follow me. So look, if this is true, apple in the tree, A to T, car in the garage, C to G, then if on a test you were given one line of the DNA of the bases, you should easily be able to do the other side, right? So let's easily do it together now.
G, T, A, C, G, C, T, A, G.
Perfect. Okay, now whoa. Are these nitrogen bases, phosphates, or sugars? Nitrogen bases. And they make up the what part of the ladder? Rungs of the ladder. Okay? So, now, the last part here. Y'all are doing a fabulous job. Let's get through like 2 more slides. So if you saw on that other slide that the strands were kind of running opposite each other. And that's just to show you as the DNA replicates, and you'll see tomorrow when we talk about replication, these strands, again, it's just they kind of go opposite each other. That's why it showed it upside down. So, so there'd be kind of a little example for you. We made it! Yay! Let's see if it actually worked.